can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Welcome back to ESBR Boxing YouTube channel in partnership with sharpbetting.co.uk, your home of betting tips and analysis on boxing and a wide range of other sports. Please do check them out for yourselves at sharpbetting.co.uk. Elliot, we're here once again in preview mode, a stacked weekend of fights on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, the first weekend in May. This is all about the card in Riyadh and the undisputed super middleweight title fight at the top of the bill between none other than Saul Canelo Alvarez and William Scull. This is a preview. As always, we will give our thoughts and predictions on the fight as well as maybe talking about some other general topics of conversation surrounding both fighters. So first and foremost, mate, thanks for joining me. What do you make of this fight? How do you see it playing out on May 3rd?
Yeah, first off, obviously, Paul, thank you very much for having me on. I'd like to speak to you as always. I think for me, this is just it's Canelo victory, isn't it? To be perfectly honest with you, he's not going to sign, obviously, to be associated with sort of Riddier season, the Riddier cars, and he's going to lose to William Scull. So I think William Scull's going to need, you'd have to win 18 out of sort of 12 rounds to even get, even to get a kind of tight split decision loss. So I feel like the only real intrigue for me on this fight is, can Canelo stop him? Or will it go points? That's really the only thing that I think. I think there's absolutely no chance that Scull, unless he kind of stops Canelo, which I don't think he will have any chance of victory. You're looking at kind of Scull. Let's be honest about you. We're not William Scull. We're not. I was going to say we're not enthusiasts. We're not enthusiasts. I suppose we're not kind of connoisseurs of the kind of career of William Scull. So I can't sit here and say that I've watched his 8-rounders, that have been taking place in Germany, kind of say anything. But what I will say is that I don't think he's kind of prepared for the kind of opponent that he's facing here. Obviously, so for me, I can kind of see a Canelo stoppage, and I think kind of in many ways that's kind of what they'd want at Riddier season. They kind of want him to sort of stop him here. But then you look at Scull as well, and you go, well, Cuban fighter, guaranteed to be awkward as well. So maybe he can kind of frustrate Canelo. Can he sort of take it long? Can he take it to points? I don't know, mate. I'm going to go, is Canelo washed? I'm going to go, to be honest with you, I can actually, no. I'm going to go 9 to 12 if it isn't me stoppage. But I can actually see a world where Canelo just UDs him, frankly. I can also see that as well. I really can. I can really see Skull just having maybe enough to kind of, hasn't got punch power, weirdly. So, when you keep Canelo off, Canelo's obviously not a front foot fighter in that way. So, I actually think it's going to be Canelo points. I don't know. I really do. I've just got a feeling that's where we're in. That's where we're in here. But it'll be points to the point where it's like, will Skull get a round? Will he get 2 rounds? It's going to be massive, massive UD victory, or possible late stoppage. But I'm going to go UD victory. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there. That's the way I kind of view the fight as well. I don't see it as being overly competitive. The question for me, like what you've just said, is whether or not Canelo can force the stoppage. He obviously hasn't had a stoppage since Caleb Plant. How many years ago was that now? A good while ago. So yeah, I can completely see why you're going points. Part of me thinks that you're right, but something's telling me that Canelo will stop William Scull. I think Scull obviously beats Shishkin to win the vacant title last October, but I mean, I don't think he's great. The rest of his record is fairly padded, in my opinion. Yes, Canelo probably is past his best. We'll come to that next. But I still think he's got enough to maybe even stop Skull. So I'll go Canelo. It'll be a second half of the fight stoppage for me. Around 8, 9, 10 is probably where my head's at. So yeah, Canelo, and I'll go stop it. But I totally agree with you. It wouldn't surprise me if it did go the distance and it was completely wide, like a 120, 108 kind of thing for Canelo. Maybe even a couple of knockdowns in there too. I touched on there that I think maybe Canelo is perhaps past his best. And as we've said before, that's not us being harsh or mean to a fighter. Like, if it happens to everybody, just because they're past his best doesn't mean that he's washed necessarily. But do you believe that the great Mexican is past his best and perhaps on the decline?
Yeah, I do. To be honest, Paul. I think again, I don't think he's declined to the point where you're anywhere near saying he's washed or anywhere near bringing out the Owen McKendry gift and saying he should retire. I mean, you look at the guys he's fought, Belanga recently, Munguia. Obviously, the Munguia win was a good one at the time. Obviously, looking at it now, when Munguia might not have aged as well, but it's a good win. Charlo, the Ryder, good victory. Golovkin disappointing, obviously, in that third fight, but they lost obviously Bivol. No shame there, given where Bivol's gone as well. So he's still obviously able to operate at elite, very high end world championship. End of the boxing kind of, I suppose, professional sort of weight classes. So I think he is definitely past his best. But equally, I think you've got to look at it and go, come on, man. The guys had sort of 60, 66 fights. You know what I mean? Like that's professional fights as well. So it'd be very surprising if he wasn't in many ways able, like, sort of pass his best, or wasn't showing some sense of sort of miles on the clock or some sense of decline. So I think compared to where he was previously, yes, he's on the decline. But I still think you look at the kind of middleweight, super middleweight division, sorry, and there's still, to be honest with you, it's not the strongest division now that you've lost. Benavidez gone up, obviously. It's not the strongest division either. So he could sort of cherry pick victories out of that division for a while yet, I think, to be perfectly honest with you. Avoiding, obviously, the likes of Benavidez. Probably, if I was him as well, I might even consider avoiding the likes of Pacheco as well, those sort of names as well. But I would have, there's so many names in there you could go, yeah, he's still good enough to beat them. So, yeah, in relation to himself, comparing himself to his former version of himself with a high watermark of himself, yes, but still easily sort of good enough to be a world champion at super middleweight and thrive at super middleweight.
Yep, I couldn't really add more to that, mate. I totally agree with everything you've said there. Don't think he's washed, but we're definitely past best, which again, as you would expect when you're in your 20th year as a professional fighter, do you know what I mean? Ridiculous, ridiculous. Just finally, before we round off, Elliot, do you see Canelo losing before he retires eventually? You know, whether he goes up to light heavyweight, tries to get that Bivol rematch at some stage, blah blah blah. Maybe gets dethroned at super middleweight by one of the up and coming fighters that you've mentioned, a Pacheco. And if he does he come back down? Blah blah. Or do you see him perhaps hand picking fighters from now till the end of his career and then retiring with no more losses on his resume?
It's actually a really good question, Paul, and I thank you very much for bringing it up. But don't thank you for not, chivalrously answering first. I think, I do actually. I do see him losing for the simple reason that I feel like if he's into this sort of Saudi deal now. I think it was a 4-fight deal, wasn't it? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong there originally. So this is, to me, seems more of a kind of like announcement fight, and then you maybe got the Crawford fight they're talking about as well. That's interesting as well because you look at that and go, how are they going to score that? Like, usually you go, oh, who's the money with? We'll give it to him. Whereas these guys are kind of, they're so elite in their own sense. It's almost like you just let it happen. Like, Beterbiev, Biff will just let it happen and see who wins. So I feel that's obviously the next one. If he comes through that, which I think he probably should do, to be honest with you, given what would be the size difference between the two of them. But again, very close fight. Then you're sitting there going, right, how if from his team or from sort of the Saudi team, you're going, well, where do we put him next? We obviously want some big fights, want a super fight. You don't want to sort of have him ticking along against kind of average fighters in either division. So do we have, like you say, the Bivol rematch, which he said that he wants previously? I think honestly, he loses that fight. I think he loses it even if Bivol comes down to super middleweight. I think Bivol just at this stage hasn't got the miles on the clock. And we've seen obviously that performance he put in against Beterbiev, both performances. I think he's got too much for Canelo. So he would beat him. I think even if you look at Benavidez, I mean, it's hard to say that Canelo would beat him, really, just because, again, like miles on the clock. Like, you put prime Canelo against him, I'd probably pick prime Canelo, obviously, sort of counter punch his way off the ropes and sort of get a points decision there. But I just think at this stage of their career, I probably wouldn't be backing Canelo in that one. So if you put him in with a certain level of fight, I do expect him to lose. I feel like Canelo, credit and all credit to him, is a guy that sort of, you can say, all right, he's cherry picked to a degree, but as always, he's fought kind of top guys. Or at least guys with belts. It's kind of like what Mayweather did, really. Like you fight sort of top guys with belts, maybe not kind of in their weight, so you maybe catch weight it, or you maybe win on the decline of it, but they're still kind of top fighters. So I do see him kind of stepping in with some big names rather than just going, give me Sam Eggington or something, So I do think it's going to be like, I do think he'll fight someone that will eventually have his sort of number. To be honest with you, I don't see him sort of wanting to be the one that sort of retires and sits with a cigar in and sort of blows up in weight either. I think he kind of obviously loves boxing to sort of fight as long as he has fought to be at the level he has for that time. So I think eventually he'll just get someone either younger or fresher that will stop him. Yeah, probably in the next, comes through Crawford, I think in the next probably two fights after that he'll lose.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And if it isn't Crawford that beats him, who knows? It could happen. Like, I would be big on Crawford if they were the same weight, but we're not really. You know what I mean? So you do have to give the Canelo the advantage there. But yeah, I could see like a Bivol rematch. I think Bivol beats Canelo every day of the week now. And there's a couple of other names, but yeah, I don't see him retiring without another loss on his resume, which again is no disgrace, as we've said with our countless times in this video. But that is unfortunately all we have time for. Thank you very much for your time, as always, Elliot. Guys, let us know in the comments your thoughts on what we've just discussed. Subscribe to the channel if you're not doing so already. Follow us on all socials, like the video, and thanks to the lads at sharpbetting.co.uk. Check them out if you haven't done so. Elliot, thanks very much for joining me. Speak to you again soon.